The Grange Stables here in Newmarket is home to a mare that has over 4 racing seasons of extraordinary international repute, carved her way into the hearts of almost all European racegoers. She is a global superstar and her name is Snow Fairy. And this is Snow Fairy's story in the words of her trainer Ed Dunlop and her rider Ryan Moore.
The story's been said before, you know, she won a maiden over 6 furlongs as a 2-year-old. She looked like she was a filly who was going to be a miler. We never really planned that she would be staying a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half, and that's sort of stumbled upon us once we missed a race at York because the ground was too firm, and literally I opened the programme book and tried to find a stakes race. She was rated in the high 90s, I think, then, and I thought, well, she's not big enough to carry top weight in a handicap or, you know, or whatever it may be. So we chose that route and she won by 5 lengths, and Mrs. Bettino said, well, I said to her, we can either supplement for the Ribblesdale at cost of 14,000, I think, or for the Oaks, and she'd never had a runner in the Oaks, and she decided, well, let's go for the Oaks, and that sort of dictated the rest of her career, or part of it anyway.
She'd won the Lupe, which was, I can't remember if it's 10 or 11 furlongs, but you know, she'd shown plenty of pace as a 2-year-old, and you just concerned going a mile and a half at Epsom, you know, so early on in her career.
It was a very open Oaks, as we know. I think people thought it was an open race and not a particularly good Oaks. And we had no idea how good she was then. She'd won an Oaks trial that we'd never planned to run in. And she was, I don't know what price she was, but she wasn't one of the particularly fancied runners in the Oaks. So yeah, it was a very brave ride coming out the rail. She actually hit the rail, I think, about a furlong out. So no, it was an amazing ride that day.
Well, I remember when we got the ride, and my agent claims he rang. Ed claims he rang for me, so I'm not sure. I was a bit concerned about her staying. Then I rode her work beforehand, and she worked super, and I just felt that year it was fairly open, and I thought if she settles well enough and we save what we can, then we'll have a great chance, and everything worked out real well. You know, I thought she'd run a big race that day.
In the Irish Oaks at the Curragh, I suppose then you're reassessing her once more, because for all that she'd won the Oaks, the Irish Oaks, she suddenly looks like a proper top-class horse.
Sure, I mean, on very bad ground as well. She won by a long way. We did the same with Ouija Board. She won the English Oaks, and we then supplemented for the Irish Oaks. It was the natural route, if she'd been okay, to go for the Irish Oaks. So it was then after the Oaks when it all got a little bit complicated of what to do after it.
No, we still took our time in Ireland. They went off very fast. We were a long way off the pace. You know, they were sort of wilted going down the hill, and you know, she everything just sort of fell into place, and she screwed up that day.
Did that make you think differently of her?
Yeah, that day I thought, you know, this is a very high class filly, and I thought she'd take some beating against the other fillies and mares for the rest of the year. And
it took you a while to get back on her for one reason or another, but you've often said that these big international races just get you ticking a little bit faster. The prospect of riding her in Japan and Hong Kong must have been quite a mouth-watering one come the end of that 3-year-old season. Yeah, well, when she went to Japan, she ran a good race in the Yorkshire Oaks, but I was disappointed with her. I thought she'd win that day, and then she, you know, mile 6 in the Ledger, she just didn't stay. Travelled very well, didn't get home, and she'd have been on the go a long time, and you were just wondering whether she'd have enough in the tank. You're thinking, if you're riding a dual Oaks winner, you should be winning a fillies race in Japan, really, but you just wasn't sure what was left at the end of the year. But it was her performance that day was sensational. At what point did you mark down Japan and Hong Kong for her, and why?
Being vulgar, huge bonuses. There was a bonus for winning the Oaks of, I think, £1 million if she won in Japan. I'd taken Ouija Board to Japan. I knew, we thought we knew how to do it, I suppose is the best way of putting it. And you know, she was running in a race where she couldn't. The money was unbelievable.
Hong Kong is it's a great meeting at the end of the year. It's great fun, and you wouldn't have probably quite the same numbers as you would get in Japan, but it's a bit more of an international race, and it's probably and that race being probably the showpiece of the meeting. It's very important, and she was backed into a short price favourite that day, I think. But it was again the race went a bit against her. They went quite slow, and we got strung out. It was a long way back, and we just took a chance on winning, and it worked out real well. She quickened up very easily. I don't think I even had to touch her. She just ran on by him. She knows where the line was, and she won a neck quite easily.
She had another injury in Dubai when we were going to run her in the Shima Classic or the Dubai World Cup. So, her first run in the Eclipse, she was blatantly unfit, and that was one of the reasons why this year we actually had 3 racecourse gallops.
I thought she ought to be winning the Nazu, and I was laid in hospital again, I think. But I thought she should have been running better that day. I didn't expect her to be brushed aside so easily. So she probably wasn't just quite firing, and then she ran a mighty race in the Irish Champion, and it was a huge run. Looked for a minute like she might do it, and I'd say that's probably her best ever performance. That or the Arc, really. I suppose the Arc was arguably even better, but she ran some massive race, and then the English Champion, she ran huge again. Wasn't far away and didn't get in the clear until quite late, but she was beaten by 2 good horses again. And those 3 races, probably the Irish Champion, the Arc, and the English Champion, they're probably her 3 best performances.
And then when she went back to the Far East last autumn to win it was Japan, wasn't it, for the second consecutive year? Do you think that, in a sense, was a more impressive performance than her victories abroad before? Given the campaign she'd had?
Satisfaction for all of us. She's the only international horse to win twice in Japan, and she probably hasn't had the credit for that. People don't realise how tough it is to take a horse to Japan, what it entails, and fundamentally how good the Japanese horses are. So, she's a bit of a goddess over in Japan, quite rightly.
The comebacks are remarkable because the injury that she sustained was really rather severe, wasn't it, at the end of last year?
Yeah, she got a tendon injury in Japan, straight to Hong Kong. We don't really know where it was. So, got her back here. It looked pretty gloomy and doomy whether she'd actually ever run again.
Yeah, I thought that'd be the end of her. I was gutted she wasn't running in Hong Kong, because I thought that was there for the taking for her, really. And it would have been a nice way to finish off the year, but I couldn't really see her coming back at that point.
Olivier Pellier, Frankie Dettori, Johnny Murtagh, Eddie Ahern, Pat Smullen, Richard Hughes. Some good jockeys have ridden this horse, but Ryan Moore's 6 from 6, all in Group or Grade 1 company. Can you rationalise that?
No, not really. I don't think any of the other jockeys have done any harm. I ran in the Ledger, she obviously didn't stay. Other races, the Arc, she was 3rd. Champion Stakes, when Frankie rode her, she was 2nd. So
is it just a function of circumstance, or is there some sort of X factor in terms of the combination between this jockey and this horse?
Oh, of course there is. Yeah, absolutely. He knows her very well. He has the confidence, and I think if the one thing I said to my wife Becky when straight after the race, when we were sort of jumping around with joy, is that it was just another ride to Ryan. There was no pressure. He just got on, and if you watch the way he rides her with utmost confidence, and I think you cannot beat 6 Group 1 wins from 6 rides. Sorry.
It's very rare that you find a filly that really just wants to win. That's her biggest attribute, really. Just she tries harder than most.
How much of a difference to your life has she made? How much has she eased the financial burden?
Well, the black hole has been helped, put it that way. We've been able to do things to the yard. Obviously, we bought this yard 3 years ago with a very large mortgage, and the prize money she has won has helped enormously.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.